Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ya, jadi sebenarnya ini adalah materi dari Profesor Mauzia Dikiani ya dari Universitas Italia. Kemarin itu kami minta dia memberikan materi bersama dengan PT dan Turki, tapi beliau rupanya banyak kegiatan sibuk, akhirnya dia minta dia mengirim video saja. Artinya dia mengambil gambar pada saat dia mengajar mahasiswanya di sana. Jadi sekalian, ya, pada dia mengajar, jadi satu kali dia menyampaikan ke mahasiswanya, sekalian dia videokan, sekalian itu dia kirim. Itu mengganti dia ceritanya, ya. Jadi apa namanya? Nah ini kami akan
Record.
Jadi berusaha saja untuk memahaminya, ya. Artinya karena dia pakai bahasa Bugis, jadi dia berusaha untuk memahaminya saja, ya. Paling tidak ya kita ada pengalaman bahwa seakan-akan ini kita sudah di luar negeri, gitu, ya.
Tiba-tiba suaranya.
Jadi dia membahas tentang manajemen pengelola limbah, ya, di Eropa.
Kondisi oli.
sector can be managed not only as an environmental problem, but also as an opportunity for circular economy. So, let's begin with the first question. What makes a leather such as unique material? As you are aware that leather is a natural and renewable material based on collagen fibers, which by the tanning process becomes incredibly versatile, both functionally and aesthetically for neurons productive uses. As it's also breathable, but at the same time insulated and if necessary can be made waterproof. And for this reason it bosses neurons, attempts and imitation, which however fails to replicate its stylistic and technical and performance properties. Why leather can be considered sustainable? More than 99% of the raw parts and skins used by the tanning industry come from cattle, sheep, and goats. And these hides and skins are not the main
Pandangannya ini orang vegan di bawah ini.
of the food industry. And in Europe, they are classified as animal byproducts or ABPs. And companies recover them and transform them into leather instead of letting them to become waste. And this recovery activity is very important. Every year, the tanning industry recovers millions of tons of hides and skins worldwide. And if these materials were not used, they would need to be disposed of, creating additional environmental impacts and greenhouse gas emissions. So, leather comes from a materials that already exist as a byproduct, and the tanning industry gives this material a second life and turns it into a durable and habitable product. And here I'd like to underline a very important message. Animals are not killed on their hides and skins. So leather production is linked to the recovery of byproducts from the food chain. Other reasons why leather can be considered sustainable. Leather can replace synthetic materials, many of which are derived from fossil sources such as the PVC or polyurethanes, and are not easily biodegradable. And new leather production several residues are generated. They can be used in agriculture, construction sector, cosmetics, food, and other sectors, as I showed. And the leather is also a bio-based material. It's mainly made of collagen, which is an organic and biodegradable material. Finally, leather is durable. quality and economic development, as shown in this slide. In 2024, Italian tanning industry, including 1,000 companies with a total turnover of about 4 billion euros. In terms of production, Italy produced about 95, and the UK also played an important role in the sector. And overall, the European tanning industry produced about 160 billion square meters of finished leather, confirming its economic and industrial relevance. Well, so in this slide you can see the main destinations of European leather. Portugal is the largest market, followed by leather goods such as bags and accessories. Other important sectors are shown in this slide. And the lower section also shows that European tanning production is mainly based on bovine leather, which accounts for 80%, followed by sheep and goats leather at 19%, while exotic leather represents only 1%. Well, after this general overview of the European tanning industry, let's now focus on Italy, which represents one of the most important countries in the European and global leather sector. Well, Italy plays a leading role in the tanning action, both in terms of quality and economic development. As shown in this slide, in 2024, the Italian tanning industry included 1,000 companies with a total turnover of about 4 billion euros. In terms of production, Italy produced about 95 million square meters of finished leather and about 8,000 tons of sold leather. And these productions correspond to approximately 67% of the total European production and 25% of world production, which clearly shows the strategic importance of Italy in this sector. Well, I'd like to focus also on the Tuscan tanning district of San Giuliano, which is the largest tanning district in Italy and one of the most important districts in Europe. This district is located in Tuscany, between Florence and Pisa, covers an area of about 300 square kilometers. It includes around 500 enterprises and employs approximately 6,000 people. And this district accounts for about 30% of Italian leather production and almost 98% of Italian sole leather production. What makes Santa Croce Solano particularly interesting for this lecture is not only its production capacity, but also its strong silver economy model. Here, water and waste materials are recovered, stored, valorized, and reused by dedicated social plants. In fact, the district includes wastewater treatment plants such as Aquarium, a chromium recovery plant, and treatment plants for small fraction is estimated for disposal landfill. Well, some residues from the pressure phases such as flashings are classified as animal microbes, and these materials can be transformed into biostimulants and fertilizers for agriculture, into gelatins and other products for the food and pharmaceutical sectors. Other residues such as trimmings, shavings, and leather scraps can be used to produce regenerated leather fiber board or fertilizers or other recovered materials. So this slide is important because it shows that waste management in the tiny sector is not only about treatment and disposal, but is about recovery, reuse, and transformation into new resources, new products. Everything is connected, everything is and be transformed. This slide introduces the central concept of a circular bioeconomy in the tiny sector. The idea is that everything is connected because the food industry produces hides and skins as byproducts. Tanneries transform them into leather, and the residues generated during the leather production can be fed, recovered, and used in other sectors. As shown here, fertilizers, biostimulants for agriculture, gelatins and collagen for food, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, and so on. Or aggregates and leguminous conglomerates for meat sections. So, everything is connected and everything is can be transformed. Here you can see a concrete example of waste valorization in the Santa Croce Solano district, the hydro treatment plant. This plant treats two important types of tannery residues, tannery byproducts, flashings and leather shavings. And the process includes several steps. First, the materials undergoes alkaline hydrolysis, which break down the organic materials and lets them recover useful protein fractions. Then the materials is sterilized and treated in the recalcination section, concentrated and finally separated using centrifuges or dampers. And the final product includes organic fertilizers, concentrated protein broth, and technical grades. And in this way, residues from the tiny process are transformed into valuable secondary products. And this is a very clear example of circular economy applied at an industrial scale. Instead of sending these materials to disposal to landfill, the district is able to recover them, process them, and reintroduce them into different value chain. Well, in fact, this collagen hydrolysis in
Kok lagi? Pertanian nih.
to combine a bioplastic matrix such as the PASA, polypeptide succinic glutamate, with collagen hydrolyzed from them, and biochar using pellets by extrusion that can then be processed by blowing extrusion to produce biodegradable mulching fuels for agriculture. And these pigments can be used in the field like conventional mulching fields, but with an important advantage because they are designed to be biodegradable in soil. And in addition, thanks to the presence of collagen hydrolyzed and biochar, they may also release nutrients and improve soil fertility.
Oh, ini PI.
Now, we move
Sandi.
to another key environmental aspect of the tanning industry, the water. Because water, after raw hides and stains, is the most important raw material in the tanning process. Because, yes, this slide you can see the consumption of water for 1 square meter of a finished leather. It's used in many steps of the process. And as a consequence, result under wastewater can contain organic matter, suspended solids, and surprises, and chromium, and nitrogen compounds, salts, and other pollutants. And for this reason, wastewater treatment is essential to reduce environmental impacts and to make the tanning process more sustainable. And the wastewater generated must be properly purified to remove pollutants and groundwater that is compatible with the environmental ecosystems. This slide you can see the main phases of the wastewater treatment. Tanning wastewater is a complex because it can contain many pollutants, chromium and surprises, suspended solids, organic matter, and so on. And for this reason, it cannot be discharged directly into the environment, but it must be properly treated. And wastewater treatment is usually based on a combination of different steps. So, the first one is mechanical treatment. Mechanical treatment which removes, of course, solids, fats, oils, and suspended matter. And then physicochemical treatment is used to oxide sulfides and to precipitate the chromium and to remove treatment plants across Europe. And physical chemical treatment involves surface oxidation from greenhouse effluents and chromium precipitation and chlorine equalization and physical chemical treatment for the CO2 removal and balancing. Well, here you can see a typical scheme for physical chemical treatment where chromium recovery is used, and it's useful to treat chromium protein effluents separately from greenhouse effluents. About the sulfide removal. Sulfides, exactly, sodium sulfide are used during the in-house operation, mainly for hair removal, softening, and opening of the dermal structure in combination with lime. And sulfide removal from tannery effluents can be achieved by catalytic oxidation, typically using manganese salts, which convert sulfides into thiosulfide and partially into sulfides, and the thiosulfides then further decompose into sulfur and sulfides. And for this reason, in order to improve the oxidation, we can use hydrogen peroxide, but however, it's costly and usually combined with the manganese or iron salts to reduce odor. And an alternative method is the precipitation with iron salts and aeration, or with iron hydroxide and salt. And this produces a brown sludge, which also removes organic matter. Among these, the most common method for tanneries is the catalytic oxidation with manganese sulfide. About the precipitation of chromium, chromium-3 precipitation is a relatively simple technique and is more efficient if it's carried out in separated effluents after screening. And the precipitation of chromium is achieved by increasing the pH to about 8 using an alkaline such as sodium hydroxide or sodium carbonate, and the chromium and other metals are precipitated as
Nah, dapat anesthesia sih.
and after precipitation,
Yan,
the
yan ang
chromium hydroxide is solubilized using sulfuric acid, so it's recovered as a solution of the basic sulfide. Well, flow equalization in wastewater treatment is the process of managing and controlling the rate at which wastewater enters a treatment system. It aims to reduce flow rate variation and fluctuation, assuring a more consistent and manageable flow for downstream treatment processes. This is achieved by storing wastewater during peak flow period and releasing it at a more controlled average rate. Well, about the CO2 removal. Well, a substantial portion of CO2 and suspended solid can be removed by evaporation and filtration. And to optimize removal, the effluent pH must be controlled for maximum effectiveness of coagulants and fluorants. And after adjusting pH and settling regulations like aluminum sulfate and ferrous sulfate and polymer formulations are added to form flux that settle well and capture residual organics and inorganic substances. But here we focus on the biological treatment of downstream wastewater, which is usually applied after mechanical and physicochemical treatment. And this process uses microbial activity to degrade organic pollutants, and with the treatment, especially activating the sludge, is the standard option, while anaerobic treatment can use it to reduce sludge production and contribute to CO2. The choice between on-site and off-site treatment depends on local conditions and retention time and energy consumption. millions of cubic meters of tanning wastewater, recovering 6 million of clean water that is returned to the water bodies. And the result, sewage sludge produced in the municipal and industrial wastewater plants are thickened and in thickening tanks, and then pumped to the thermal treatment plants by a dedicated sludge pipe in order to produce about 7,500 tons annually of inert material for use in the construction sector. Well, here you can see the scheme that summarizes
Warno.
the main treatment lines of the aquarium plant. Well, the industrial line includes screening, rate removal, homogenization, sulfide oxidation, biological oxidation, clean nitrification, tertiary treatment, and sludge entry. Well, the municipal line is simple, but is integrated with the overall treatment system, and the final treated water is discharged into the river channel only after meeting the required legal limits. Well, here you can see the thermal sludge treatment plants. Well, in this case, sludge is conveyed through a dedicated sludge pipe to the Ecospans plant, and the treatment process includes the dehydration, drying, and the pure sintering, and energy recovery and fuels, and the gas treatment. And the final product is a citrate inert material that can be used in the construction, in the engineering materials for roads. Well, this is another example of waste valorization and the circular economy. Well, here you can see the oil network is another important wastewater treatment plant in the district of San Giuliano. I like Aquano. Oil network mainly treats wastewater from vegetable tanning processes, so the wastewater doesn't contain chromium in this case, and the plant treats both industrial and civil wastewater and produces dried sludge that can be used for economic applications, contributing to soil fertility and crop productivity. So finally, this slide shows the consortium plant for chromium recovery, and so stays exhausted chrome tanning bags that are collected and treated in order to recover chromium as a reusable product. And the plant processes about 19,000 tons annually of exhausted raw bags, and recovers about 86-90% of the chromium. Recovered chromium is recycled back to tanneries, reducing chromium discharge and the consumption of new tanning soils. This is another clear example of a circular economy applied to the tanning industry. So, to conclude, the main message of this lecture is that the tanning industry can move toward a greener future by
Masih Rizia, Rizia Shihab. Yes.
This lecture can be for you a useful overview of Italian West management in Europe and Italy, especially. And before closing, I prepared some questions to help you review the main topics of this lecture. So these questions can be used either for discussion or as a short self-assessment activity. And so thank you again, and well, see you in Malaysia. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Rizia, Mem Rizia.
Baik, tingkat kalian, jadi tadi penjelasan sebenarnya terkait dengan bagaimana manfaatan limbah dari penyamakan kulit yang ada di Eropa ya. Jadi prinsipnya bahwa hampir semua limbah yang dihasilkan, baik itu limbah, tadi kalau kita lihat itu kan ada limbah flexing. Ya, limbah flexing itu maksud saya sisa-sisa daging itu yang anda ceritanya ini manual toh. Nah, kalau di perusahaan itu kan pakai mesin. Nah, pakai mesin itu kan banyak limbah-limbahnya di bawah itu. Nah, itu yang tadi yang daging-dagingnya toh. Nah, itu limbah-limbahnya itu tadi dia manfaatkan, ada yang jadi pupuk, fertilizer, ada juga yang menjadi plastik ya, ada juga yang
Pupuk.
menjadi bahan bitumen ya, aspal. Jadi dicampur di aspal yang perjalanan itu. Jadi hampir dari industri yang ada itu hampir tidak ada lagi limbah yang dihasilkan. Jadi zero waste istilahnya. Limbah cairnya tadi itu dimanfaatkan betul, dia ada proses-prosesnya, sehingga keluar itu dia sudah bersih. Ya, sudah bersih dan sudah tidak berbahaya, sehingga itu bisa dibuang ke sungai. Nah, di sungai itulah tempat memelihara memelihara
Sapi. Oh, ikan.
Kemudian
Pakan pelet.
limbah-limbah bulu tadi itu yang banyak limbah-limbah bulu tadi yang banyak dihasilkan dari proses-proses unhairing, proses pemilihan bulu itu semua dikeringkan dan sebagainya, kemudian campur masuk ke dalam pupuk tadi itu ya, tanaman apa dan sebagainya. Nah, hampir tidak ada yang tersisa. Nah, salah satu yang mungkin kita sempat lihat tadi itu sebenarnya di dunia itu adalah bahwa di Eropa itu, khususnya di daerah Italia itu, disitulah tempat industri pengolahan kulit yang terkenal di produk-produk kulit yang terkenal, Gucci, Hermes, Prada, Vuitton, semua ya. Hampir sebagian besar itu produksi di Italia. Ya. Dan daerah di Italia itu yang sangat terkenal untuk produksi itu ada namanya tadi ada di kelihatan bahwa ada 99% itu bahan bakunya itu berasal dari ternak, dari sapi, dari kambing, dari domba, ya, dan sebagainya. Jadi makanya dia mengatakan bahwa jangan ragu dengan peternakan, bahwa apa yang dihasilkan itu memiliki nilai ekonomi yang sangat tinggi sekali. Coba lihat ini ada sampai dia 8 miliar ton, 8 juta ton itu hampir semua terserap masuk ke dalam. Nah, kalau kalian kita ini ada ini SDGs ini ya. Ini hampir di seluruh Eropa ini ada. Nah, ini kemudian tadi itu ada bahwa kulit. Nah, ini ada ini yang terkenal di Eropa ini adalah ini Santa Croce Sulamo. Nah, ini produsen kulit yang industri kulit yang paling besar di Italia ya. Nah, ini proses pesannya. Ini tadi salah satu nih apa namanya sisa flashing ya.
Sisa flashing.
Kemudian juga yang trimming ini yang potongan-potongan pinggir-pinggirnya yang dipakai itu ya. Nah, kemudian ini juga sisa saving ya, itu kan kulit itu kan kalau ada yang tebal ada yang pendek, kalau sudah dimasuk di mesin saving ini ya, seperti di mesinnya itu kan banyak kayak sarutan ininya kayak ampas-ampasnya, ini semua dimanfaatkan di dalam apa namanya pengolahan limbahnya itu. Kemudian ini sisa potongan-potongan dan sebagainya itu semua tidak tersisa, tidak dibuang. Nah, ada dari sini itu. Nah, ini salah satunya kan. Itu ada 5 juta ton per tahun produksinya ya. Ini masuk semua alat-alatnya ini sampai ke bawah sini. Sampai menghasilkan ini organic fertilizer ini. Ya ini organik ya. Organik. Nah, ini juga ada konsentrat protein ya.
Kayak kaldu. Larutan konsentrat.
Ini masuk ke ini digunakan untuk pertanian. Nah, ini untuk pertanian. Ya. Kemudian ini limbahnya ini untuk cairnya. Semua ya diapakan ini. Nah, termasuk ini ya untuk tanaman ya ini dalam bentuk buku pelet. Ada yang tulisan
Plat.
ada bioplastik. Bioplastik ini ya ini lagi dicampur dengan dibikin semacam kayak adonan gitu ya, kemudian membentuk lagi plastik gitu ya. Jadi plastik itu digunakan untuk membungkus apa dan sebagainya. Ini bukan ya ini limbah yang dibikin seperti ini kemudian ini jadi plastik lagi kemasan apa dan sebagainya ya. Nah, kemudian
sama nih.
ini adalah proses pengolahan limbah. Ini nah, ada yang unik juga dari sini ini ya. Nah, ini satunya ini. Nah, di sana itu di Italia itu ada memang satu industri itu khusus itu sana kerja ya. Dia hanya mengerjakan saja pengolahan limbah. Kalau misalnya di sini contohnya adalah Kima, di Makassar.
Iya.
Ya. Tahu Kima ya?
Tahu, Prof.
Kima itu kan banyak pabrik-pabrik toh.
Banyak pabrik makanan, infrastruktur,
Ya. Nah,
materials.
pabrik-pabrik itu yang mengolah kulit itu tidak perlu menyediakan dia alat pengolah limbah. Dia hanya membuat saluran menuju ke ada satu industri ya, yang memang kerjanya itu bekerja. Ya. Jadi semua industri-industri yang ada di sekelilingnya itu dia bawa limbahnya ke sana, ya, dia bawa limbahnya ke sana. Nah, apa keuntungannya? Pertama, keuntungannya dari industri sana itu dia tidak perlu mengeluarkan uang untuk membangun alat pengolah limbah, ya. Nah, dia hanya membayar ke industri tadi itu bahwa kalau dia buang limbah cair maka harganya segini per kubik, ya. Memang ada ukurnya. Misalnya limbahnya itu 100 per kubiknya itu misalnya sekian 10.000, nah dia bayar itu. Jadi tidak perlu dia keluarkan uang untuk mengolah limbah itu yang sedemikian besarnya. Nah, begitu pula limbah padat itu juga begitu. Dia tinggal misalnya timbang apa dan sebagainya, berapa yang harus dia bayar dan sebagainya. Nah, industri tadi yang mengolah limbah itu keuntungannya apa dia? Pertama dia hidup dari industri yang ada di sekitarnya, ya. Dia menerima penghasilan dari orang masukkan limbah di situ, dia bayar kan bayar, ya. Nah, orang bayar itu dia di situ dia hidup ceritanya dari limbah-limbahnya orang itu dan sebagainya. Apa menjadi keuntungan bahwa mereka itu tidak bersaing, mereka saling menghidupi, ya.
Melengkapi.
Kalau di sini industri di sana bikin pengolah limbah, di sana bikin pengolah limbah, industri ini bikin saya pengolah limbah, semua tidak efisien, ya. Semua industri mengeluarkan uang untuk mengolah limbahnya, sehingga tidak ada industri yang mau mengolah limbah karena semua punya. Nah, itu jadi tidak efisien. Nah, sehingga dengan seperti ini maka itu menjadi sangat efisien sekali bagi industri, ya. Nah, kemudian ini mereka industri misalnya itu sampai mengolah sampai akhirnya ini kalau kita bandingkan kemarin itu kan luar seperti ini, ya ini contohnya. Ada berdiri 500 ton per tahun, ya bahan material untuk bitumen untuk jalan raya, ya. Dicampur dengan aspal boleh pakai jalan raya. Nah, itu kan limbah semua kan dipakai, tidak ada yang ini. Nah, coba lihat limbahnya ini kan. Awalnya begini, dan ini berbahaya, ya beracun, P3 ya, tambah banyak beracun. Nah, semua jadi pupuk dan sebagainya. Semua kita pakai ya. Jadi dan kulit yang diolah ini itu paling banyak untuk sepatu. Angka di sini. Jadi materi ini dia paling banyak dalam untuk tujuan pembuatan sepatu. Kemudian yang kedua adalah untuk tadi untuk kulit itu digunakan ada 37% untuk tujuan pembuatan sepatu, ada 22% untuk bahan-bahan kulit tas dan sebagainya, ada 13,4% untuk car interior, jok mobil, itu tempat dulunya mobil yang ini gitu, itu tidak ada pakai semua pakai kulit itu, ya mobil-mobil yang Alphard, mobil-mobil yang pokoknya mobil standar yang agak menengah ke atas itu rata-rata joknya itu adalah kulit. Kemudian 13,3% untuk furniture, ya kayak sofa yang kulit yang ada itu ada untuk sofa. Kemudian garment, jaket, dan sebagainya. Kemudian yang lain-lain misalnya aksesoris. Jadi inilah peruntukan kulit ya.
Peruntukan produksi kulit juga kemana?
Saya kira itu 1,5 ya.